Welcome to The Anxious Voyage. If you think that title sounds bleak or foreboding, one of two things must be true. You're very lucky, or you need to get out more. On this program, we share stories of life and living. We compare notes. We discover commonalities. We accept that life is a glorious, heartbreaking thing, and we embrace and celebrate all of it. Take the ride with us. We're glad you're here. Now, here's your host, Mark O'Brien.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are coming to you again, and as always, from World Headquarters in Middletown, Connecticut, home of this weekend's Evel Knievel motorcycle jump competition across the Connecticut River. Anyone who happens to make that jump will get a lifetime supply of Connecticut River shad, and those who don't make it will be wrapped in thermal blankets from Bungee Bob's Blanket Barn in Bolton. So please show up for that. You don't have to buy tickets, but do dress warmly. I am very happy to welcome my guest today. His name is Roberto Alfaro. I happened to meet him at a book signing event we were both invited to in at a local public library here. So before I show folks your book, Roberto, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your wonderful podcast, Mark.
So I will plug your book right here.
Whoa, there it is.
Fighting the Hurdles of My Life. I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
There is, as you might guess, quite a bit in it. So I think what we'll try to do is just cover some of what's in it in depth, and then leave it to our watchers and listeners to pick up the book for themselves, which I highly recommend.
That sounds good.
So in the book, you describe your upbringing in a poor community, poor family in New York, which ultimately led to your becoming a gang member. And I would like to talk to you a little about that. A, because the transition from that is just so remarkable in my estimation, and B, because I wonder, and I didn't grow up in an environment like that, but I wonder about the draw of that gang life to young, impressionable men.
Okay, so if I was to start before, one of the biggest struggles I had started from a very early time in my life. I was just a baby when my parents told me that I contracted some type of E. coli type of bacteria. And unfortunately, that led to, I was less than a year old, like I said, and unfortunately, that led to me being in a coma. And the doctors didn't think I was going to be able to survive. They told my parents that to pray really hard for me, and hopefully I will be able to overcome that condition and improve and wake up from the coma. So my parents prayed around my bedside with a priest, and it took about 3 to 4 days when I finally started showing signs of coming out of this coma, and I finally came out of the coma and was able to survive. And the doctors could only tell my parents that it was only they could not describe in medical terms how I was able to survive, only to say that it was probably a miracle. So that was one of my earliest struggles, but then my struggles continue. I was born and raised in one of the worst drug and gang infested neighborhoods of South Bronx. It was so bad that by the age of 16, I had already lost at least 12 people and friends and people that I knew from the neighborhood because of their involvement in gangs and drugs. And this happened during the 60s and 70s. And while my neighborhood was extremely dangerous and crazy and full of gangs and drugs, on top of that, at home, it wasn't any easier. My father was an abusive and violent alcoholic that had us running from one neighbor's home to the next, and in fear of our lives. And this continued for many years. And because of that, I lost many days of school because I didn't know where I was. Sometimes I would end up in strangers' homes, people that I've never been to. And my mother would wake me up in the middle of the night and say, come on, we gotta go, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I said, Mom, where we going? Where we going? She said, no, come on, we gotta go. And she would push me out of the bed and leave the house with a bag of clothes and not knowing where I was gonna sleep. So after a while, I felt like I was I felt really uncertain about my life and the situation I was in. And then I'll get to the gang stuff and all that other stuff. But in addition to that, I was also very shy in school, had no friends, was afraid to talk in class. And then I became a target for the bullies. So I got bullied from kindergarten all the way up to 4th grade. And it was so bad that one day in 4th grade, I got beat up by this bully after school. And I ended up in the emergency room. He was older than me. He was a 5th grader. I was a 4th grader. He was a lot bigger than me. So then I ended up in the emergency room. My parents got called in and they were extremely upset, the whole bit. And the doctors determined that I suffered a concussion amongst numerous cuts and bruises to my face. I got hit him really bad because he knocked me out unconscious. And a stranger picked me up and drove me to the hospital, believe it or not. So anyway, from that point on, I said, enough is enough with the bullying. I was tired of the bullying. So I went up to my brother. My brother was one of the best street fighters in the neighborhood. Somebody you wouldn't want to mess around with. And when I told him my story, he said to me, don't worry, brother, I'm going to teach you how to fight. So this way, nobody will ever mess with you again. And sure enough, we after that incident happened, he bought a pair of boxing gloves for him, a pair of boxing gloves for me, and throughout the whole summer we trained in preparation for the next bully that came my way. Alexander was his name, the guy that beat me up. He ended up graduating and went to a different school. I never saw him again. So by the time school started, back in September, and the vacation ended in the summer, I was more than ready to face all the bullies in the school. And sure enough, it didn't take time. It didn't take long, and before you know it, I had all these bullies try to pick a fight with me, and each person that tried to pick a fight with me, I put them in their place, and guess what? They never ever bullied me again. So what happened? All of a sudden, I have my self-confidence is soaring, because now I went from this kid that had no friends, was afraid to talk in class, and then all of a sudden, everybody wanted to befriend me. There was only one big problem. All the people that wanted to befriend me were all the troublemakers in the school. So I started hanging around with them. And sure enough, after a while, I started getting in trouble also. I started fighting in class, being disruptive in class, cutting class and hanging out with my friends at the parks. And these guys were like a little street gang within the school that I was hanging around with. And as the years went by, things got worse and worse for me. And I ended up being a high school dropout. So,
again, I don't know anything about that life, but from things I read and things I watch, I have the sense that at times gangs are attracted to young people because they give young people senses of belonging that they might not feel at home or at school. Do you think, given what your dad was like, do you think that was one of the things that led you to at least consider being in a gang?
There was more to that besides all the issues I was having at home and stuff around the neighborhood, but also my brother was in a gang, my sister was in a gang, so it was kind of like it was all around me at that time. There was gangs in the neighborhood, and so me being a shy kid at the time and had no friends, all of a sudden now all these guys want to be my friends, and I felt like they wanted to bring me in, and I felt really welcome, so I started hanging around with them. Before you know it, I'm hanging around with doing all sorts of stupid things, and And like I said, this is the fact that my brother and my sister didn't help. Around the neighborhood, I had nobody that I could look up to and say, look, I want to be just like him, or I want to be just like that. There was none of that in my neighborhood. So the only thing that was around my neighborhood was, bad influences, that I was seeing all around me. And it was tough. It was tough. And after a while, after I dropped out of school and all that, and I said to myself, you know what? This is not the life that I wanted to live. I knew I could do it. I had so many dreams that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And I said, being on the streets and hanging around with the wrong people is not the life that I wanted to live. And I had all these dreams that I carried in my heart and soul. And thankfully, thanks to God and God's blessings, He put a couple of mentors in my path at just the right time to pull me out of all of that. And it was like a savior,
And I have to say, well, first of all, I have to say, knowing you as I do, and because part of the purpose of this program is to indicate to people that they can probably do more than they think they can. I have to tell you that I love the idea that you were a shy kid, because you are nothing like a shy kid, which gives me confirmation that people can certainly change. I do want to pick up on what you were saying about
absolutely
mentors, being lucky enough, because I think that's only 50% of the story. And what I mean by that is, and I'm positive this was related to your dreams,
Yep.
and related to the image of yourself that you carried, regardless of whatever things you had done that might not have been terribly positive. But when those mentors come into our lives, our part of it is to recognize them and to understand that they've been put on our paths and to make responsible decisions, which is exactly what you did.
Yeah, they really opened my eyes. I mean, one of the mentors that came into my life, he said, listen, if you keep hanging around with these people, you're only gonna end up either in jail one of these days, or you're gonna end up dead. And he really opened my eyes. It was one of my first mentors was my 8th grade teacher, and and then another kid. So I was working when I ended up dropping out of high school. I was working a little part-time job in the neighborhood, just like a community place office. And one of the guys that was there working with me, he was he's a lot older than me. I think I was only 14 at the time, but he was like maybe 19, 20 some odd years. And he was going to college, and he lived in the projects, or some really bad projects that were right across the street. So he asked me one day, he said, hey, so what school do you go to? I said, well, I don't go to school. I said, I dropped out of school. I told him my story, everything about me, He said, listen, man, he said to me, he was going to school for to be an accountant. He said, there's nothing out here in the streets, man. That's why I'm going to college. I said, I'm going to better myself, because I don't want to live in the projects anymore. I've lost many friends, and it's not good. It's not a good. So he said, you should go back to school. He said, go back to school. There's nothing out here, and get an education. And there's so many promising things that you could do in your life. So it was after that little talk, between the talk of my 8th grade teacher, that stood in my mind, because I even after my 8th grade teacher talked to me, and I still was screwing around, but then it started coming back to me. I put both of them together, and I said, you know what, these guys are right. I got to go back to school and make something out of myself, because this is not the life that I want to live.
I know a young man who ended up making some seriously bad choices.
Right.
And did 9.5 years
Wow.
for a drug-related shooting.
Wow.
And he said for the first year or 18 months or so, he was just angry at the world, and considered himself to be a victim. And then he
Yep.
said, it dawned on him that the only person responsible for where he was him.
Yep.
And so he changed his attitude, started reading like a lunatic, got a paralegal degree while he was still in prison.
No way.
He was released in 2016. He had earned his bachelor's degree by 2020,
Wow.
and he has since earned a master's degree. So you were, I'm going to say, self-aware enough to make better decisions than that young man did at a point before you got yourself in the trouble that
Yes,
he
yes.
did.
I just think the mentors, came in at the right time, and just pulled me out of that and opened my mind to, there's better opportunities out there than being on the street. So, and I had all these dreams as a kid. I mean, I lived in an apartment dwelling, 6 stories high, decrepit ceilings and walls. Believe it or not, there was times there was junkies everywhere. There was times when I would go into my building and I would have to carry a little knife with me because my parents got held, my father got held up there, my mother got held up. And every time I would go in the building, I would look around the corner and make sure that there's no junkies in there, hiding in the corner, And that was the life, that was the life that was around me, all these crazy things. And in my mind, I said, one day I'm gonna own my own home. I'm gonna own my own home and have a brand new car.
Mm-hmm.
Many years later, I made those dreams come true.
There are people who say, and we may get to part of this conversation about, the nature of policing these days. But there are some people who say, there's a fine line between criminals and police officers, and I know that almost any single generalization can be true, but I don't buy into that. So I'm saying that because you did find your way back to school.
Yes, I did.
And you also found your way, well, you found your way to Connecticut, and then became a Hartford Police Department officer for 21 years, if I remember that correctly.
Exactly. 21 years.
Could you kind of walk us through that transition?
Okay,
I mean,
right.
that's almost miraculous in itself.
All right. But I gotta go back a little bit. So I
Yeah,
went back to
please.
school, and I was extremely elated, happy to be back in school. And not only did I go to day school, but I also went to night school because I wanted to make up for the time that I lost. And then in addition to that, I decided to play varsity basketball for the school. And the coach there also became one of my mentors. And he really looked out for me and was always with me and saying, look, you got to do good in school. You want to graduate and one day, pursue a career, maybe in professional basketball. So all of that, kept me out of trouble. All of that kept me out of trouble. And then, so like I said, not only did I go to day school, night school, and I started playing varsity basketball, but when I graduated in 1974, in June of 1974, from Morris High School in the South Bronx, and I graduated at the age of 17. Believe it or not, graduated early.
Wow.
So now, I had one of the dreams that I had was to be the first Hispanic professional basketball player in the NBA. And then I knew that was going to be a long shot, But then what I did, I said, you know what? I'm going to go to Puerto Rico and play professional. So I packed my bags, went to Puerto Rico, and about 2 weeks into one of my practices in one of the teams in Puerto Rico, I went up for a rebound, came down hard, and landed on one of my opponent's foot, and broke my ankle.
Oh.
So, I know, it's crazy. So now I'm with a hard cast. I said, I know I'm not going to be able to play this year. So boom, I headed back to the South Bronx. And now I'm in the South Bronx, and I'm saying to myself, what are you going to do with your life now? I'm talking to myself now. I'm saying, what are you going to do with your life now? You're not working. You're not playing professional basketball. What are you going to do with your life now? That's when I said I said, I'm going to go to college. And when I did that, I enrolled in college. When I did that, I became the first person in my family to go to college. That was huge for me. It was huge for my family. Because up to that point, nobody in my immediate family had ever graduated from even high school. So that was huge. I know. So then, so now I'm in high school. I'm in college, right? And now by this time, I figure, okay, my troubles are, or not my troubles, but my worries are going to be over. It should be smooth sailing from this point on. But by the age of 19, I was already married and had a child on the way. So now, me and my ex-wife were both poor, working mediocre jobs that were paying us less than the minimum wage. So we were struggling to pay our bills and everything. So now I had to switch from going to school full-time and working part-time to doing the opposite, working full-time and going to school part-time. And in the job that I was working in, I was miserable. It was like I was the lowest man the totem pole and working in a basement. I mean, in the basement of a company, in the mailroom. And I was miserable there. I almost had a couple of fights with a couple of dudes there. So anyway, so one day we ended up seeking government assistance because we were having a tough time feeding the family, putting food on the table and paying our bills. And luckily we entered a program, a government assistance program that helped us with the food and put food on the table. And that was like our savior. And then from that point on, we were able to put food on the table and pay our bills and with the money we were making. Then one day, like I said, I hated that job. One day I happened to hear on the radio that NYPD was hiring police officers. So like, wow, this is like, I said, being a police officer. I said, my grandfather in Puerto Rico was a police officer. He was a state cop in Puerto Rico. So he was always been my idol. So I said, this is the perfect opportunity. I said, I hate this job. This is my dream job. And I applied to NYPD, took the test and passed it. They put me on a waiting list. In the meantime, my cousin in East Hartford heard that Hartford was hiring police officers, and she told me about it. She said, hey, cuz, I just wondering, I heard that you want to be a police officer. She said, I said, yes, cuz, that's my dream job. I've always wanted to be a police officer. She said, well, just want to let you know that Hartford is hiring, the money's great, the benefits are great, and I think it'll be a great fit for you, great opportunity. So I said, absolutely, cuz. So I went over there, filled out the application, took the test, and passed every required test. The next thing you know, I'm in the Hartford Police Academy. And 6 months after that, I graduated and made my dream come true of becoming a police officer, just like my grandfather.
First of all, thank you for sharing that. Secondly, this is a perfect opportunity for us to take our first commercial break. So please stay with us and we will be right back.
Everybody has a story. Everyone's story deserves to be told. And the only bad stories are the ones we don't share. That's why Mark O'Brien created The Anxious Voyage. It's Mark's conviction that every story deserves to be shared, and his purpose is to give people in all walks of life from any circumstances a chance to tell their stories. The Anxious Voyage is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Monday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with live broadcast every first and third Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Please tune in, please join Mark, and please share your stories.
Ever wonder what it's like to have your own radio show? Well, wonder no longer, because you can dip into the radio airwaves by being host for the day on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. It's a fabulous way to get your radio feet wet. It's an opportunity to market your business, modality, or book. Have a guest, mention a sponsor, and take callers. Or you may want to facilitate a lesson by going solo. It's up to you. Listeners can be online, mobile, in cars with Bluetooth, or listen through Amazon's Echo by asking, Alexa, play Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. For more details, go to dreamvision7radio.com and click on Host for the Day.
You can't establish your brand's authority without a voice. That's why, since 2004, O'Brien Communications Group, OCG, has been helping companies establish their authority, find their brand's distinct voices, and position their brands effectively and persuasively. So effectively that 9 of OCG's clients have been acquired by other companies. OCG's business model emphasizes efficiency and results, not hourly billing, markups, and media commissions. That ensures OCG's advice is unbiased and its clients aren't at financial risk. If you're ready to find your voice and use it to tell your story, OCG is ready to help. You can find O'Brien Communications Group on the web at o'briencg.com. That's OBRIENCG.com, or call 860-944-9022.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to dreamvision7radio.com.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
So, Roberto, you come out of the academy.
Yep.
I'm going to guess initially you're walking a beat.
Yes.
First, were you walking a beat? And second, were you on a day shift or a night shift? And was it what you expected?
Oh my God. Believe it or not, I thought that Hartford, because up to that point, I had never, in all my life that I lived in New York City, in the South Bronx, had never been to Connecticut, so I never heard of Hartford or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, in my mind at the time, when I applied to Hartford and all that, I thought it was a little city, not much going on. But man, it didn't take long for me to figure out that this is like a small New York City. Mm-hmm. So one day, I happened to be walking the Park Street beat in Hartford, and they had a restaurant that was on the corner of what's the name of it? The Comerio restaurant. It was on Park Street. Mm-hmm. And then a buddy of mine who had the area car, we decided to have dinner there. So we're having it was like, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock. So we're having dinner. The next thing you know, we hear shots, boom, 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 boom. Shots fired. One of the bullets came in between us, like almost hit us. And I'm like, wow. So we drew our guns, and now we go outside the restaurant, and we're looking for the guy, and the guy takes off, right? The guy that did it wasn't shooting at us. What happened was, it was a guy that was standing in front of the restaurant, and for whatever reason, it was a drug deal gone bad, or whatever the reason was, he was shooting at him. So the guy took off. We were able to get, this guy gave us the information where to find him. We ended up finding the guy. We surrounded the house, and he gave in. He gave up, and we arrested him. So that was one of my introductions, just 3 months on the job, where I almost got shot.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, did you ever have to walk Albany Avenue?
Albany, yes, I did. I walked Albany Avenue. I had the beat there. I was on Albany Avenue like nine months. Walked the beat there. A lot of crime.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy stuff. There was gangs there all over the place. And here's one of the things that happened there. And one of the most, but this happened while I was in patrol, but it was in the same area. I covered Albany Avenue. So one day I arrested this gang member that was hanging on the corner, and he had drugs on him, the whole bit. So get him in my car. And when I get him in my car, the guy's bawling. He's crying like crazy. I'm like, what's going on? He said, officer, you have no idea what's going on in my life. I said, well, what's going on? Tell me. And usually, you know, I figure a lot of guys you arrest, they'll cry, you know, looking for sympathy and all that. But this guy was telling me, he says to me, hey, you have no idea. I'm in this gang. I'm trying to get out, but I'm afraid because they're going to do something to me. My parents don't want me at home. I ended up dropping out of high school. So I took his words and I said, you know what? This guy, for some reason, something was telling me that this guy's telling the truth. You know, that he was really being honest with me. So I gave him advice. I said, you know, I told him like similar advice that they gave me about what's you know, being on the streets it is, and you know what could happen to you. You end up dead or you know, or in jail for life. And we talked some other stuff, and after I took him to booking, the guy thanked me, right? And I never saw him again. 15 years go by. Now I'm on Allen Street in Hartford, and I'm in my horse with my mount Alex the Wonder Horse.
Mm-hmm.
We're walking down Allen Street. Next thing you know, I hear a gentleman calling me. He said, "Officer." And he comes. I turn around. I figure this guy needs some type of assistance. So he comes running to me. He says, "Officer, you probably don't recognize me, but you were the guy that arrested me for those drugs, and I just want to let you know that thanks to you, I turned my life around." Woo.
Yes.
He said, "Thanks to you, I turned my life around." I said, "I got 2 jobs, I got a family with 2 kids, and you made a huge difference in my life." And so many times, police officers go through life and not seeing the results of what they do, changing lives out there and making a difference.
Yeah.
And that was my moment.
Wow. Thank you so
Oh,
much for sharing that.
I will never forget that.
And you know what? I'm just going to share this because a couple of dots just connected in my head.
Yeah.
When did you retire from the Hartford PD?
Okay, I retired in 2000 from the Hartford Police. I did 21 years. And then, yeah, that's what I did, 21 years.
I'll tell you why I'm asking that.
Yeah.
Because I believe it was 1999, my older son, who's now 41,
wow, okay,
was 16 at the time. He was about as stupid as you would expect a 16-year-old to be. To make a very long story short, he thought he was going into the home of a neighborhood friend. The family wasn't home. And he thought he was borrowing his neighborhood friend's father's car. The police, of course, thought it was breaking and entering and grand theft auto. But I'm asking you this story, or I'm telling you this story because he panicked and he ended up ditching the car. I don't know if you remember Mark Twain Boulevard or something that's right off Albany Avenue.
No, Mark Twain Boulevard. Yeah.
Where the projects are?
Yeah.
He panicked and he ditched the car in those projects on Mark Twain and chucked the keys in a dumpster.
Wow.
And nobody found out for 2 weeks. And then the whole story came to light. And to again, abbreviate, he could have gone away for 2 years, but he lucked out and he got accelerated rehabilitation, first offender status, et cetera. And the big light went on. And, you know, now he's a good man. He's a good husband. He's a good dad.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But so you would have been on the force at that time.
Yeah. But I don't remember that case. I mean, it could have happened, you know, when I was off or maybe I was working in a different part of the city, but that is so common. I mean, I can't tell you how many kids I arrested in stolen cars that were kids. I'm talking about, I had one kid that was 14 years old driving a stolen car. Another one that was a passenger, 9 years old, in a stolen car.
Wow, 9.
And it's just not just boys doing it. Like several females that I caught in stolen cars too. So it's crazy. Young females in stolen cars.
So I want to continue into your story. But before I do that, I just want to ask you, generally speaking, I'm sure you stay in touch with people who shared your profession. What do you think of the state of policing now? And, you know, if we're to believe mainstream media, which I don't necessarily, policing is being looked down on. Police departments are struggling to get new officers. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, it's a difficult time right now for police officers everywhere, departments everywhere, because of you know, sometimes and this is in all professions. I mean, you're gonna have it happens with teachers, it happens in doctors. You know, that you have one bad apple, and sometimes we get a bad rap because of one bad apple. You know, and it's not fair. It's not fair because there's 99% of the cops out there. They're out there risking their lives to save lives and to do good in the community. And I, you know, I got to tip my hats up to my brothers and sisters out there. My son is a police officer, so I, you know.
Wow.
And you know, and it's an amazing profession that there's no other profession in my way of thinking, or in my mind, that rewards the person so much. You know. It's a very rewarding profession, but because of all these sometimes negative things that you hear in the media, which is biased, because sometimes the good stories you never hear about. It's always the negative stuff. So after a while, of course, people start believing that all cops are bad. And believe.
I come from a family of lead-footed drivers. And I'll just tell you this. My dad died, actually, you know what? It was 11 years ago this month, but I was living down in Westbrook and his funeral was in Meriden. So I was driving up Route 9 and I don't know how fast I was going, but I was flying.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I was wearing a suit and a tie, and a state cop pulled me over.
Whoa.
And he said, where are you going? And I said, well, you probably hear more stories than you can even keep track of, but I'm actually on my way to my dad's funeral.
Oh.
And he said, is that why you're dressed like that? And I said, yeah. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, please be careful. God bless your dad.
Oh,
and go ahead.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's just one of the reasons I don't buy into the cops.
So you'll never forget that. You'll never forget
ever,
that.
never, ever.
Yeah.
And it will never mean anything less to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
So you ended up retiring from the department, and then you ended up at Quinnipiac University's Department of Public Safety. How did that happen?
Well, that's a long story too. But after I retired from Hartford, I was working full time as an actor in New York and professional model. I was traveling all over the country, and so that was taking so much of my time. And and I did this for many years. I'm still acting. I'm a SAG-AFTRA, and I still model professionally. I still belong with like 6 or 7 agencies that represent me. But so one day, I just got burnt out of going back and forth to New York, traveling, and I mean, dealing with the traffic and all of that. I said, you know what? I really miss the law enforcement field. I said, I really miss it. And one day there was an opening at Quinnipiac University Department of Public Safety, and I applied and became one of the officers there.
Man, they probably couldn't believe their good luck when you walked in to apply for that job.
Oh my gosh, it was great. They were great people. I love working. I worked with them for almost 6 years and had the best of times, met many great people there, and a good time. So anyway, I'll say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
No, what I was going to say that while I was there, I started writing my book, believe it or not, because I was watching an episode. I was back in 2004. I was flipping through the channels, just looking for something interesting to watch. And I came across an episode of Oprah Winfrey. And she was talking about the episode. The episode had to do with people everybody has a story to tell, right? which I think you also have that on your
Oh,
website.
yes, I do.
So she had a bunch of people. She was out. They were sharing their stories, and she said, "Oh, you have a great story. You should share it." And then somebody, "Oh, you have a great story. You should write a book." So all of a sudden, when she started saying that, all those stories that people were saying, I'm like, damn. I said, I have an amazing story of not only trauma that I've been through and victories that I've been able to overcome. I said, maybe I should share my story and hopefully make a difference in the life of somebody else that might have gone through what I've been through, or is going through what I'm going through, what I went through, right now. And I said, so then I sat in front of the computer. I said, I'm going to write a memoir about my life. So I started typing, boom, 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 boom. And before you know it, I had one chapter done. One chapter led to 2 and 3. But then, because I was working like in New York, going back and forth, I would do a little entry here, a little entry there. And there was times when weeks, sometimes months, that I wouldn't put an entry. So by the time I got to Quinnipiac University, I was almost in the last phase of my memoir. And I said, you know what? I'm going to finally retire in 2021. I said, I'm going to retire in 2021, and I'm going to devote my 100% of my time to finishing up the memoir. And sure enough, in 2002, I finished up my memoir and it got published. And that's how.
And I'm just going to plug it one more time, and I'll do it before the show is over as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so
Fighting
much.
through the struggles of my life. And at this point, let's please take our second commercial break, and we will be back right after that to finish up.
Are you ready for the quantum age?
Humanity's next step in evolution?
Dream Vision 7 Radio Network invites you to the extraordinary platform of evolutionary voices for the quantum age.
Let's explore. Learn more about this upcoming age where we bridge science with spirituality.
Where potentiality meets reality.
Where we take compassion into action.
Our trailblazers and visionaries will ask the whys, the what-ifs, while igniting continuous possibility.
Come along with us into an age beyond what we know today, where we can grow together in unity consciousness.
Experience evolutionary voices for the quantum age, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern on DreamVision7Radio.com.
You can't establish your brand's authority without a voice. That's why, since 2004, O'Brien Communications Group, OCG, has been helping companies establish their authority, find their brand's distinct voices, and position their brands effectively and persuasively. So effectively that 9 of OCG's clients have been acquired by other companies. OCG's business model emphasizes efficiency and results, not hourly billing, markups, and media commissions. That ensures OCG's advice is unbiased and its clients aren't at financial risk. If you're ready to find your voice and use it to tell your story, OCG is ready to help. You can find O'Brien Communications Group on the web at o'briencg.com. That's OBRIENCG.com, or call 860-944-9022.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to DreamVision7Radio.com.
Everybody has a story. Everyone's story deserves to be told, and the only bad stories are the ones we don't share. That's why Mark O'Brien created The Anxious Voyage. It's Mark's conviction that every story deserves to be shared, and his purpose is to give people in all walks of life from any circumstances a chance to tell their stories. The Anxious Voyage is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network every Monday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with live broadcast every first and third Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Please tune in, please join Mark, and please share your stories.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Given what you were just sharing with us, Roberto, about being at Quinnipiac and writing your book, there's a bunch of things I hope we can get to in this last segment.
Sure.
Did being in that academic environment, do you think that helped contribute to your writing?
Yeah, I think so. In many ways. I mean, not only believe it or not, I shared before my book was published and everything. I did talks with some of the students, and I shared my story, and that was received really, really well by some of the students, and they couldn't believe that, because a lot of the students that were there, the life that I was living in New York, they had no idea, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I had to go through. A lot of these kids were, they come from family that well educated, that have that come from money or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But so they have no idea what that life is about, and I kind of told them stories about my life in New York and all that. So, but my son graduated from Quinnipiac University. He was there while I was there.
Wow.
Yeah,
and what, just because
my
I love
youngest
that,
son.
what did he major in?
He majored in criminal justice.
Oh, that's just so amazing.
Yeah. So that's
One of the reasons I believe that we should tell our stories, and one of the reasons I'm so grateful that you're sharing yours, is that, and I will grant that your circumstances were extreme, but I think there's a trap that a lot of us fall into, which is that if we're in a particular situation, or if we're in a particular set of circumstances, or even if it's something like depression, the temptation or the trap is to think that we're alone and we're the only one who is experiencing that. And, if you didn't do anything other than think about the number of human beings on the planet, you would know that can't even be possible. And I suspect, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you started to realize that even if you couldn't have articulated it when those mentors came into your life. Do you think that's true?
100%, 100% of the time. Here's the thing, that the advantage that I had over a lot of my friends and people that from my neighborhood that never made it. They didn't have that golden opportunity that I did. That mentors that took me under their wing and kind of led me, to believe that there was a better world out there, And some of those kids, unfortunately, and people that I knew, unfortunately, never had that opportunity. All they saw around their neighborhood, around their lives, surrounding around, it was negative stuff. So when you get something positive that says, look, there's something else that besides all the stuff that's in this area of life in your neighborhood, there's positive stuff that could come out of this. And I think that's part of the reason a lot of these guys could not find. I knew that there was a way. I had this strong drive that I wanted to break the cycle, because I saw all these, like I said, all these people dying and people that I getting shot and killed from my neighborhood. And because they didn't know how to break that cycle, to them, living outside that life wasn't possible. And I saw it as a possibility. I always thought positive. That I said, no, there's more to this than being in this environment, and being in this negative environment that could drag you down if you don't know how to fight it.
And so again, I think there's shared responsibility there. And when those mentors came into your life, you had to be able to recognize that. And did it ever cross your mind that there were differences made in your life because you encountered people who either saw things in you that you might not have been able to see yourself, and or gave you the distinct impression that they were so sure of those things in you that they were not going to quit on you.
Absolutely. I had a lot of teachers, believe it or not, that they gave up on me. In their mind, I was I was going to be one of those kids on the streets and constantly getting in trouble and all that. But so they didn't believe in me. But these mentors that came into my life, they believed it. They saw a different side of me that maybe I wasn't aware of, a potential that I could do so much more in life than what I was doing. And they made a huge difference in my life. I wouldn't be here right now talking to you if it wasn't because of them. And not only them, but God too. God paved my way to led me to these mentors and paved my way to all the dreams that I've been able to accomplish in my life. And so I am really thankful for all the blessings that I've received through my mentors and God and the good people that have surrounded me in my family that have always been there for me to support me. And, it's huge for me. It means a lot to me.
And I think some people, I don't even know how to say this. I think sometimes people play down the reality of choice. And so, and I've had similar experiences, again, nothing anywhere near as extreme as the ones that you faced. But there were times in my life when I recognized that I had to choose to believe what other people saw in me, rather than saying, and I'll give you one quick example of all people. A guidance counselor in my high school said to my face, "You will never go to college."
Wow.
I had no idea when I would go to college. I had no idea how. I didn't go till I was 28 years old, but I knew he was wrong. And so I had to choose that. So, I admire you tremendously for all you've done, and I admire you for your gratitude. I just hope for your sake and for those folks who are going to see this program that we recognize we have choices in those instances. And those people who come into our lives are critically important because they give us the opportunities to see things in ourselves that we might have missed.
Exactly. And and what I do now is because I am, like I say, I'm truly blessed with everything. So what I do now is I go around different places in Connecticut and sharing my story in hopes of making a difference in other people's lives. And I'm actually going to be on another podcast on Thursday that deals with the youth. Some of the kids that have been involved in problems in the past, whether dropping out of school or in trouble with the law. So I hope that my story will make a difference in their lives. I'm going to be speaking at their organization, but before that, they're doing a podcast, and so I could share my story. But and I hope to, that by sharing my story and everything that I've been through in my life, just give them hope that everything is possible. I mean, look at me, where I'm at now. I could have gone so many different directions, but I'm here. I grew up poor in one of the worst drug and gang-infested neighborhoods of South Bronx. I suffered trauma as a child from all the violence I witnessed at home. I suffered trauma from the bullying, but I'm here. I could have been a statistic and ended up like so many of my friends and family, friends and people that I knew from the neighborhood because they're involved in gangs and drugs, but I'm here. And part of the reason why I'm here is because of God's blessing and also because of my belief in myself that I could accomplish anything that I want to in life. And
I think a lot when I think about stories like yours. Excuse me, I think about, believe this or not, dropping seeds. And the only thing you cannot do is to quit. is to quit dropping those seeds. And I can't think of a better example right now than that young man who you encountered 15 years
earlier.
You had no idea at that point what you were doing for that young man.
Exactly. As far as I'm concerned, the guy was involved in drugs, gangs, and all that. I said, maybe this guy ended up serving time in prison for the rest of his life, or maybe he died. So when he came up to me and ran to me like that, I was like, wow. I mean, I had to share my story, and I get emotional about it because, it's one of the stories I always share about how one person can make a difference in somebody's life.
Absolutely.
One person. I mean, if your gift, you're lucky if you have more than one, but all it takes is sometimes one person to open up your mind and say, look, there's something better than what you're doing out here. There's better opportunities out here than what you're doing.
So I just, I feel like I'm beating a drum here, but I just have to bring up the notion of choice again, because when you were in booking with that young man, you didn't have to share anything with him.
Absolutely.
You made the choice to figuratively speaking, take that guy's hand and say, look, man, there's opportunity here. There are other directions. And that seed took.
But it was something in I don't know, in his voice that came out like he was really speaking from the heart. And I took that in. I said, this kid is he's going to be one of those that maybe he does want to. He's, what do you call it? That maybe he is being honest with me, and he wants to turn his life around. And maybe I should listen to what he's got to say, and maybe give him some advice.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to him if he wants to take it or not. But you know what? And I'm so grateful that I did, because, I know that hopefully he was able to share that story with others, maybe in the gang, or maybe other friends that were going the wrong path, and maybe he was able to turn somebody else's life around.
Yep.
Sometimes it could be a domino effect, just like it could be a domino effect with negative things. So this could be a domino effect with positive. Hopefully you could pass it down the line. That was
agreed. I am going to wrap up here. I just want to share one more thing with you before I ask how people can get in touch with you. I recently heard from a person with whom I worked more than 30 years ago.
Wow.
And she's with another company now, and wanted to know if there was an opportunity for my company to work with her company. But when she first reached out to me, the first question she asked me was, do you believe life is a circle? And what you did for that young man was demonstrate that life is indeed a circle.
Oh my gosh, yes it is.
And that came right back to you. So I am going to share this one more time, Fighting Through the Hurdles of My Life by my guest today, Roberto Alfaro. And please let folks know how they can find you, your website, your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, my website is www.robertoalfaro.com, one word. And also if somebody wants to reach me, they could reach me on my Gmail, which is no dream is too big to dream. At gmail.com.
I love that.
Write me an email saying, look, can you come to my place, my business to share your story? Because I do motivational speaking, and I share my story, so I'm available. And stay tuned. I'm also going to be in this movie. I just want to promote it now.
Please go.
Quickly do it. It's coming out in the Sundance Film Festival on February 24th. And I play a police officer in that one.
Of course you do.
So
what's the name of the movie?
It's called Ricky.
Okay.
And it's going to hit theaters after the Sundance. But I'm hoping that it goes there and it wins awards and all that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also going to be on the Taylor Kinsler show, CT Live, on January 23rd at 11:30. So if anybody wants to tune in and see me there. And
okay. And I will tell everybody who is tuning in with us today, or is going to see this recording or listen to it, that when I share it in my social media channels, I will include all those links that you just gave us.
Oh, fantastic.
And then we'll just hope that the thing just continues to go viral.
Fantastic. Wow, man.
And in the meantime,
Yes, sir.
A very sincere thank you to you. I admire you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And I look forward to staying in touch with you because this is just a beautifully valuable connection.
Thank you so much. Never stop dreaming because no dream is too big to dream.
Amen. Amen. The only bad dreams are the ones we give up on.
Exactly. Mark, thank you so much for having me on the show. I had an awesome time.
All right. I will talk to you again soon, I hope. And thank you all for tuning in. I will actually see you again next week. And I hope you'll tune in then. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into The Anxious Voyage, the program dedicated to sharing stories, helping people, and celebrating life. You can see and listen to The Anxious Voyage on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Monday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, with live broadcast every first and third Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you have a story to tell, or if you know someone who does, please email the host, Mark O'Brien, at mark@o'briencg.com. In the meantime, please remember, the only bad stories are the ones we don't share.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.